Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Film, this series where I talk to a variety of different people about their love of film and what sparked it in the first place. And today I am joined by the brilliant Neel Bhatt. Why don't you introduce yourself, Neil?
Hello, I am the brilliant Neel Bhatt, not the average, but the brilliant. Uh, I'm a film blogger and occasional podcaster. I also have a daytime job, which we won't talk about because it's boring. But yeah, huge love of film, huge nerd.
Mm.
It is who I am.
I want that to be your Twitter handle now, the brilliant Neel
I'll change
Bhatt.
it.
That never before has anyone changed their thing from this series, but I want that to be your thing now. So just to start things off, a nice general question that kind of sets the playing field a little bit. Is what is the most recent film that you've seen that you absolutely loved? It can be an old film, a new film. What's the first thing that springs to mind?
I actually just watched a film last night, and it
Mm,
was Censor, which was 2021, I think it was.
yeah.
I missed it when it came out. It's a film for film. It's like a horror thriller mystery, and it's an hour and a half. It's a very tight film, and it is brilliant. It's terrifying. I mean, I'm currently home alone, and watching it, yeah, in the dark by myself when I know no one else is there.
Mm,
It kind of adds to the atmosphere, but it's an extremely well made film. It's well written, and it's one of those things that the tension doesn't let up, and the acting is
mm,
brilliant. It was a film I was excited about when it came out, and I just never saw it. And
mm.
thankfully, it was on TV a few weeks ago. I think during Halloween,
That's a
recorded it, and yeah,
it's a
went and
couple
watched
years
it.
old now, isn't it? Yeah.
But yeah. I think it is 2021. Either
Mm,
that or last year.
yeah, because I remember watching it the year it came out, but I was very late to the party because I'd heard
Mm,
loads of people talking about how good it was. And I think it fascinated me from the word go purely because of what it's about, like the whole censorship thing in the 80s.
yeah.
Um, and I don't know why, I just find all that sort of stuff just fascinating, especially like the whole. I don't want to get into politics, but like the whole
Hmm.
Thatcher in
Yeah.
England. I think that's why I love the Blue Jean from this year as well,
Right.
because that focuses on like Thatcher's Britain as well, even though it's a depressing topic. Just all the I think finding individual stories around that time period and not necessarily focusing on her. I think it's just fascinating, and I think Censor is really. I need to rewatch Censor because I haven't seen it since whenever it came out, which I've forgotten the year now. But
Yeah.
it is very very good. I think it rides
It's very
just
good.
the right line between psychological and like legitimately kind of terrifying.
Yeah, it really, really does. Yeah, like and both add to that sort of scary element to the film. The
Mm.
whole sort of video nasties thing that runs throughout the film, which is exactly what the type of film that they're sort of censoring or looking into is
Mm.
fascinating, and it's just it's something that we still see now, like not video nasties, but a subject of some sort of media, whether it's video games or something like that, being
Mm.
blamed for violence when it's complete bullshit. But.
Mm. But funnily enough, now that you bring that up, that would be the perfect topic for a film talking about like the heavy video game censorship of like the late 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, yeah, there was a
That
lot of
yeah, I'm going to pitch that now.
that.
I don't know if anyone's thought of it yet, but like I'm immediately thinking like the whole Mortal Kombat Grand Theft Auto thing back in the day where there was
Yeah,
like
there was that. Yeah, it feels
yeah.
less so now, but yeah, it just seems like a bit of a cop
Mm.
out to sort of blame something like that when there are other issues that
Oh
to
yeah.
blame,
Sure,
as always.
I was playing way more violent games when I was a kid, and look how it turned out.
Yeah, you're always violent when you see me.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm intrigued to know because you said you write for blogs, you have been on podcasts before. I know you show up on the Empire podcast quite a lot as well, which is always a delight to listen to. But I'm intrigued to know just how did you get into writing in the first place? Like, what sparked your interest in wanting to do that, and how did you get into that as well?
So my degree was actually media writing, so it was kind of like a mix of journalism and script writing. It was, I'm not gonna lie, a bit of a Mickey Mouse course, but it was fun. I enjoyed it, and I'm
Mm,
glad that I'm semi using it to this day.
mm,
I've just always had an interest in writing. I'm not sure where the interest in actual writing sparked from, but a friend of mine suggested to start a blog a
mm,
long time ago. I think it might have been 10, 15 years ago now, like quite a while. It was after I
mm,
was at university, which shows you my age, but it's fine. And the name of my blog, which is Neil's Real Deal, is all
mm.
double E's because I thought it'd be funny,
Yeah.
and it feels like it's a good one. But yeah, it's just I think yeah, just a friend of mine started that sort of interest, and then
Mm,
from that I've sort of gained more opportunities and sort of put myself forward for more things. Just
mm,
for example, like getting to cover the London Film Festival for like the last sort of 7 years in a row has been fantastic.
mm. Yeah, no, I definitely I mean, I like to think in terms of, well, video wise, I've been doing this for 8 years, but writing wise, I feel like I'm still relatively fresh to this.
Mm,
Um, oh god, because I did I wrote for I think I mentioned this on Reese's Cinematique podcast, but
mm.
there was a website that I don't think exists anymore, which shows how good it was, called something like moviecopilot.com or something, where you could literally just write your own articles and no one would edit it. It was just like you do whatever the hell you want.
Right.
And it was a very like community based thing. And I remember writing a few for them when I was at university just because I just wanted to. And I think there was one article I was particularly proud of, but if I could, if I found it now, I'd probably like cringe reading it
It's
because it,
always
yeah,
that way.
yeah, because like I'd actually like to redo it again if I could because it was like top 10 moments from the whole of Breaking Bad, and I know the
Oh.
choices I picked I would still put in that order. It's just the way I'd word it. It'd be like it wouldn't be as cut and paste of like this one's really exciting.
This one's good. I like this.
Yeah, this has got big explosion. It's fun.
I want to know the top 10 moments now.
uh, I th- so I think. Oh God, this is because again, if I could easily just Google it and find it, I would. But oh God, what was right? So I remember. I think number one was
Spoilers for Breaking Bad.
yeah. Spoilers for Breaking Bad, even though it's been out forever.
Easy to go.
Oh God, I know Danny Trejo's head on the tortoise was in there
Mhm.
because that's like
That's
ingrained in
right.
my brain. And
Oh
I
yeah.
was I watched Breaking Bad at way too young of age because I was still like going through secondary school and my friend got me onto it and I was like, yeah, okay, I'll give it a go. And then stuff like that happens and I'm like, oh God. I'm pretty sure the number one thing was uh, Gus's
Yes.
walking, yeah, because that
Yeah.
is my favorite episode of the show, like full stop. Um, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that was not number one. I remember the cover. The weird thing is, I remember the banner photo for the article being Walt getting like dollar bills out of a washing machine, and it's like the POV of the
Oh
washing
yeah,
machine.
yeah.
I don't even know if that was actually one of the moments that I chose, but I just remember very distinctly it was like top 10 Breaking Bad moments, and it's just that image
It's a
on the
good
top.
shot. There are so many good like POV shots like that.
Mm,
Like if you watch the honest trailer of it, they've got all these fantastic shots.
mm.
Yeah, I mean Vince Gilligan was just a master at that sort of thing. Very,
Oh
very
yeah.
smart.
I think that is why Breaking Bad is like. Don't get me wrong, I love Doctor Who, I love Community, but Breaking
Mm,
Bad will always be like number one because I think at the time I don't think I'd seen a show shot like that before, and it almost felt like there are elements where it almost feels very because I was making short films back at college and university. It almost felt like that translated on a bigger budget,
mm,
especially with how the camera's used. Like, oh, they're just going to put this camera in a ditch and then like lift a car off at the top, and it's just like, okay, that's the kind of stuff you'd think of on like a really limited time
yeah.
scale and budget, and it just fascinated me.
There's definitely a
Um,
show that sort of changed or was part of the change of TV, and like it's now sort of, we're
mm,
fully sort of golden era. We just get an insane amount of brilliant shows.
Mm,
every year now because it's so cinematic and like they're spending more time and more money on them
mm,
because they know how popular they are. Like the limited series is like the thing. Now
mm,
people don't want films; they don't want like long running series. They want limited
yeah.
ones because that's what audience always want now.
Yeah, there is a benefit to like a mini series, but at the same time, I
Yeah.
do like. I love Doctor Who, and that's been going for 60 years. That kind of that's taken the definition of it and kind of going, yeah, we're going to push it a little bit more. But but I do like the idea of mini series. I still need to watch The Last of Us to be honest, but I do love Band of Brothers and
Brilliant. Yeah.
The Pacific, which no one talks about, and I think that's criminally underrated.
Yeah, I've not
Um,
watched that.
it is very good. It basically just
Mm.
takes what worked about Band of Brothers,
Mm.
and makes it more like visceral.
Yeah.
Like Band of Brothers is quite intense, like in terms of the war scenes, but the Pacific, because it's because the Pacific battlefield was like so much more intense. They really go to town with it.
Yeah.
Plus, you're following like three separate characters all at the same time, and Rami Malek's in it. So
Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Band of Brothers is great too, but Pacific is underrated. What was the point I was getting at? Oh yeah, um, the general gist I think I was saying is like going back to that Breaking Bad article. I still feel
Mm.
relatively new into the writing scene because again, it's only in the last year or so that I've been doing it properly in
Yeah.
massive inverted commas. Um, but yeah, I think having because you said you've been writing roughly for about 10 years now, and I think especially you and me because we both cover the London Film Festival in some degree. I
Yeah.
think it that the festival alone, and I think I mentioned this on other episodes with different people. That alone is like a great launching point in terms of experience. I mean,
It's
you
huge. Yeah.
this year, for example, interviewed the director of Foe, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
That and I wrote a review for Chicken Run.
mm,
Um, yeah, that was Chicken Run 2, I should say. Yeah,
mm,
that was just incredible because I think this year I've sort of questioned why I was doing it, wondering
mm,
why I'm here, and I've been here for several years and not sort of doing that much besides
mm,
covering from my own blog. And suddenly all these opportunities start to come my way. But I think it's just I try to, if I've
mm,
the opportunity to try and put myself forward for it, but it's a funny one because you can do it for for stuff like that, or you can just do it for the pleasure of doing it. It's kind of
mm,
good that they accept so many people,
mm.
um, minus queuing in a certain alleyway, which we won't talk about.
Oh God, do we even go into detail on that or?
No, that's fine.
Oh God, but yeah, I do agree with you wholeheartedly in terms of the amount of people they let in as well. Because only been doing it as press. This was my second year
Right.
as press, and but I'd done the festival a couple times as a member of the public on and off since 2018. I think that was my first one, but
Yeah.
doing it as press is a whole different experience. You get to meet so many people. I
Yeah.
mean, for example, I met you for the first time this year
Yeah.
properly, um, and it's just I don't know how to best to word it, but it really I guess the best way to word it is it just opens up so much in terms of possibilities. I know next year I think I want to try start doing interviews because I feel
Nice.
like I'm getting better at them with this series, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll let the audience uh, figure that one out. Um, but yeah, I do want to. It's a fantastic experience, and again, I think it helps a lot of different people doing a variety because you've got professional critics, you've got some doing it for hobbies.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to think of my thing as a hobby, so to speak, even though I'm doing it on a professional level. Whether it be
It's
this,
somewhere in between, isn't it? It's similar to me.
yeah,
Like I feel like mine is hobby, something I enjoy, but also
mm,
it feels semi-professional in a way, especially with like some of the writing and podcasting. It
mm,
does add to your sort of experience to it. I wouldn't say yours is just a hobby because you do
mm,
videos like this. If it was, I think it was just a hobby, you would do it a lot less as
mm,
well. But yeah,
mm. It's become a point where it's like, for me specifically, it's like if I can find the time to do this, I will. And a
Yeah,
lot of the time, I'm trying to find the time to do it because I want to do this more than the other stuff that I'm doing because
of
I
course, yeah.
enjoy it so much and I've met some fantastic people through it.
Including me.
Yeah. I didn't mean that to sound so disingenuous. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure, kind of. Yeah,
uh,
you, Sean Neil.
yeah, yeah. There's this person and that. Maybe not him, but
There's someone else I'm forgetting.
let me think. So I'm kind of interested in terms of your style of writing,
Mm.
and just how you approach film criticism as a whole. Are there any specific elements of the filmmaking process that you like look into or specifically take into account when you're writing a review or recommending it to anybody?
So you'll hear about some stories that have happened like on certain film sets, behind scenes, and all sorts. Like, Don't Worry, Darling is like one of the
Mm.
very biggest ones that you heard of recently. But I don't sort of account for any of that at all. Just take the
Yeah.
film on whatever surface level
Mm.
it's on, like what it's about, what the how the writing is, how the acting is, how the directing is,
Mm.
score, and all that. So I sort of try and I make sure that I look at a film in terms of how it makes me feel,
Yeah.
and it can make me feel happy or sad or whatever. If it's hitting the notes that it wants to hit, then that's a good thing. Because there are times
Mm.
when you'll see a film go for these, you know, revealing moments, huge emotional moments, or jokes, and
Mm.
if they just don't land, they don't hit.
Mm.
At least sometimes with me with certain films, but it kind of, and part of it is dependent on what you bring to this to the cinema or to the film itself.
Mm.
There's some films, like there's a certain film that hit me harder than it would have for other people, and that's Onward, Pixar's
Oh
Onward,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
that was, I think that was one of the first films Lizzie and I watched at the
Mm.
cinema, like after lockdown or something
Mm.
like that. And it's like the subject matter is very close to my experience, sadly, but it's one of those things
Yeah.
that other people might not get the same sort of um,
Mm.
reaction out of it as I do. But I
Mm.
think it's so dependent on your history and your own background when
Mm.
it comes to certain films. And like, for example, my background, like Miss Marvel, is another one. I know it's not film, but
Yeah.
like that's something that speaks to me quite a lot on a cultural level because of
Mm.
sort of the Indian Pakistani similarities and
Mm.
Hindu and Muslim similarities. Yeah, it's there's so many factors,
Mm.
and thankfully a lot of films do hit some sort of emotional note in some sort of way.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I've had some people on this series, and even back when I was like first doing my channel, it's like some people look at like the cinematography or just the acting or just the writing, and I'm now at a mindset similar to yours where it's like
Mm.
I when I watch a film, I'm kind of encompassing all of the elements, but it's more
Mm.
necessarily whether it's made me feel the thing it's trying to make me feel.
Yeah,
Um, I think that's why I stopped doing just regular reviews of new releases because there was a lot of stuff I was watching where it's just kind of this is fine, but I don't really have much to say about it, and it's only like every film in a blue moon that makes you feel something, and then you have a reason to want to talk about it because it's
yeah,
affected you on a specific way. Whereas 99% of the other stuff that comes out, you're like, that's fine, that one's all right,
yeah,
that one's
yeah,
okay. Whereas like now on my channel, I've said this multiple times on the series, but I talk about stuff I want to talk about. So I don't cover the majority of stuff that comes out unless it's something like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 that ruined me the entire film
yes,
and I want to like talk about it in a specific way. It's like so. This isn't a film that's widely out yet, but this is one that I saw at the festival this year. Is All of Us Strangers,
right,
and this is something that Ren can also back up because I think when we were talking about the film, um, he was affected by the exact same line I was affected at, which is when Andrew. I won't give away too much, but there's just one line where Andrew Scott is talking to his dad, and his dad says to him, "I'm so proud of you." And Andrew Scott replies with, "I haven't done anything to be proud of." And just that one singular line, me and Ren were both like, Oh, yeah, I get it. I
Yeah,
get it. And again, it doesn't have to be the whole film. It can just be like singular moments for me nowadays. Because there have been a lot of films this year have made me cry.
same.
I
Yeah.
don't know whether that's me or the films, but
I watched I like I kept trying to watch Past Lives loads of
Mm,
times. One of the things that other things kept coming up, and I finally watched it a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, it was
mm,
just throughout the film. There's just again, like I think it's partly what I brought to it, but also it's just so well done. It's really well
mm,
told. And
yeah,
again, that's like it's an hour and a half or hour and 40
mm,
something, and it shows that there are films which kind of outstay their welcome when it comes to their running time. And like I
mm,
understand some of them, but some are just unnecessarily long, and like you kind of need to. It
mm,
feels like people need to sort of learn how to make tighter scripts and
mm. It
watch films like this to see how good they can be when they're that short.
yeah, funny you mentioned that. I watched the new Hunger Games film yesterday, and that is
uh,
like 2.5 hours, and it really doesn't need to be.
yeah.
Whereas the other end of the spectrum is like the last film I watched before that was Manchester by the Sea, and that's
Oh yeah.
just over 2 hours, and it
Yeah.
somehow fits perfectly in that.
Mm,
And that's another film that kind of it didn't make me cry, but it like hit here because it's a film all about grief and loss. And right before all the pandemic stuff happened at the end of 2019, I lost my nan.
right.
And even though that's like 4 or 5 years like ago now, it's still kind of raw for our family because it
Yeah.
was
It's
like
still
that
still
happened and
new.
then all the COVID stuff happened, so we didn't have much time
Yes.
to get over it. But again, Manchester by the Sea kind of like, not hit a nerve, but like it just like ticked a box that was very relatable, and I could
Mm.
see where it's coming from. And then you get Hunger Games where it's like we're just going to make it 2.5 hours when it really could have had the extra like 30 minutes trimmed off. Plus, I
Oh
watched it
yeah.
with my dad who likes the Hunger Games films, and every time Rachel Zegler kept
Yeah.
singing, he just kept going, "Oh God." Like I don't. He's not a massive musicals fan, so every time like she kept singing more and more as the film went on, and I just heard like, "Ugh." And I'm like, "Oh, I thought she sounded fine," and he just keeps going, "Ugh."
That's
Okay.
such an old man dad sound, isn't it? Like, oh god. I meant that
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. Because the other thing is, he didn't know who she was, so I had to explain to her, it's like, she's from the West Side Story remake. And he goes,
Right.
"Oh, right."
Yeah.
Another film
Now
I'm not
I
going to
see.
watch.
Yeah.
I still need to watch that, actually, but I
It's
just knew
good.
from his response, he was just like, "Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. That explains it."
It's good.
Mm.
It is a 2.5, I think 2.5 hour film. But I think
Mm,
it's I don't think I minded that like runtime
mm.
with that one.
Yeah. Spielberg's good at a long run time
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the
yeah.
most
I
part,
trust
yeah.
him. Yeah. I forget it's Spielberg. I don't know why.
I need to watch that and the original. I know it's sacrilege, but I've not seen the original one either.
The amount of film I've got on my like to watch list for
Mm,
God knows how long, which are like classic films. Oh, you should watch. Like, okay, I'll watch them when I've got time. But yeah, there are many films like I've never seen. For example, The Godfather Part Two.
mm. No, I've not seen that
Right,
either.
there you
Yeah.
go. And I think until
Mm.
I say the last couple of years, I'd never seen an Indiana Jones film besides the fourth one. So I've never
Okay.
seen like the original trilogy. So my first experience of Indiana Jones is the fourth
Was
film, which is absolute shit.
uh, as soon as you said that, I was like,
Oh crap.
uh. Funnily enough, that's the one question I've asked like loads of people in this series, but I don't know why I didn't put it on your list. Was actually, are there any classics that you've not seen yet? And you've you've covered that anyway. Which yeah, I've not seen Godfather Part Two, even though people tell me to. But the fact that you started with Crystal Skull,
I know. I don't
good
know
God.
why. I can't remember if I watched that in the cinema or watched that at home or
Mm,
whatever. But yeah, it was just awful. It just looked like there was a
mm,
constant green screen everywhere, and just it looked crap. It was a terrible story. It just all bad.
yeah, I
And what was it? It was like knowledge was the whole thing in the end. It's like, oh god.
I want to know everything. Uh, bloody hell. At least with I have this mentality where it's like at least with the Star Wars prequels, there's elements to them where like they're not great, but I can
Mm,
happily rewatch any of them. I never have the urge to want to rewatch Crystal Skull.
yeah,
Even when it's on
yeah.
telly, I'm like, no,
No,
watch something else.
no. I think what I'll do is if it's ever on TV, I'll have a look at it.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, it's still shit, and then move on.
You watch like 5 seconds, like, nah.
Uh, I was right. Everyone was right about that film.
Yeah, funnily enough, Sawyer, who I had on the last episode of this, when I asked him the question of like, what's one of the worst films you've ever seen, which we will get to for you in a bit,
Mm.
um, he funnily enough said Dial of Destiny, and as soon as he said that, my
Oh,
brain was like, it's not perfect, but Crystal Skull is still
yeah, much worse.
miles worse.
Yeah.
Which I did think was an interesting choice. I can understand
Mm.
why people don't like Dial of Destiny. I'm like
Mm.
straight down the middle with it, but yeah, it's the Crystal Skulls way worse than
It
Dial of
really
Destiny.
is. It really is.
Oh god. On a separate note though, going back to just before this becomes like a whole Indiana Jones episode.
Good night.
um, I'm interested to know, going back to like your writing career and stuff,
Mm.
and again, this is kind of feeds into the festival a little bit. Are there any specific highlights that what has been a career highlight for you personally in your career so far?
I mean, sort of talked about it before, but the fact that I'm on the Empire podcast sort of every now and then has
Hmm.
been unbelievable.
Hmm.
I've written just one thing for them, and I think that maybe I'm better at talking about film than writing about film.
Hmm.
But I, and again, I mentioned it before, like Ms. Marvel, it was
Hmm.
when they had their sort of weekly spoiler specials when it was out, and I sort of tweeted about it and
Hmm.
said it would be nice to see some sort of representation.
Hmm.
And then Chris got in touch and asked me to come on. It was kind of great to see such a huge
Hmm.
um, journalist and podcasts and magazine wanting to
Hmm.
sort of do something different and change and realizing, oh, we could do this actually.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, brought me on and I did the 4 episodes from I think it was episode 3, 4, 5, and
Hmm.
6. And then yeah, I've just been on sort of on and off ever since. It's
Hmm.
been incredible, and I just did an episode this week.
Hmm.
I don't know if I can say what it is or not, so I won't.
Okay.
It's not like a spoiler or anything like that, but it's just nothing I don't think that's been talked about
Yeah.
on their social media.
Okay.
But yeah, I did episode this week, and I did just do them sort of every now and then.
Hmm.
I'm in their WhatsApp group, which is fucking mind blowing. Like, just sort of like they're like, oh, here are all these people I've admired for years, and I get to message them.
Oh, God.
But yeah, stuff like that is incredible. But
Hmm.
minus the Empire stuff, I get to sort of very occasionally do other like freelance bits for other magazines. So I
Hmm.
did over this year. I wrote for a couple of publications, and I got to interview someone again for Empire.
Hmm.
But that sort of stuff is so
Hmm.
much fun, and it's kind of like it's nice to sort of add that to my day job because it's something I can
Hmm.
do around it. It's something I enjoy, and it's something that I'm paid for, which helps when you're saving for a wedding. And I say saving for a wedding,
Hmm.
saving for a
Yeah.
wedding, desperately trying to. And it's just so much fun. Like
Hmm.
the podcasting stuff, I get to sit in a room with nerds and talk about nerdy stuff. It's just
Hmm.
the best. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just nothing compared to that sort of thing. And
Hmm.
there are times when, like, I still like I'm mind blown that I get to do this sort of stuff and message people and you know
Yeah.
go to press screenings and all sorts of stuff like that. And the press screenings are really fun.
Hmm.
Especially like this year with the Barbie one, which was just ridiculous fun.
As soon as I saw the pictures coming out of the Barbie one, I'm like, I'm so pissed I don't live in London. I am so pissed. Like, I would love to come to half of those press screenings, but the fact
Yeah,
that I don't live in London is the main thing, and
it
the
is a
fact that I don't
pain.
get the invites anyway. But
Oh,
that's
yeah.
another point. That's another point. Uh, but yeah, I guess I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but also like the fact that you get to do all that, and the fact that it's for like the biggest film publication in the UK is just like the icing on the cake.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are times when like even
Mm,
think about it now, I cannot believe it. Like,
mm,
um, I had a chat with Chris after the last episode of Ms. Marvel.
mm,
He was very kind, like really nice about how I'd been, and he was very
mm,
honest as well. He said if it hadn't worked out, you wouldn't have come back on.
mm,
So completely fair. Like the fact I did 4 episodes in a row was,
mm.
amazing. But yeah, he spoke to me after and said we'll definitely have you back on and so on and so forth. And admittedly, like it was a big high, but I also thought, okay, well we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm very sort of guarded and a little bit
Mm,
pessimistic with that sort of thing.
mm.
Um, but he has, and I've been sort of doing it for I think a year and a half now.
Oh.
Whenever Miss Marvel came out or something like that. But yeah, it's been amazing.
Yeah, I think that was about a year ago, wasn't it? I remember
Yeah,
that came out, and then She-Hulk was like very quick after that.
yeah, I think it was maybe June
Mm,
that
that
Miss
sounds about
Marvel
right.
came out. Um,
I have a horrible confession to make. Out of all the Marvel shows, that and She-Hulk are the two that like I have not watched yet. And that and Secret Invasion I haven't watched, but people tell me it's not very good. So
Secret Invasion is not worth watching.
I feel like this is like I love the MCU. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah, me
I
too.
feel like that is one of the issues I have with it at the moment. Is like the TV shows feel like an obligation rather than I want to watch them. Outside of like the ones that come back, like Loki season 2, where I was already attached from that from the beginning. A lot of the
Yeah,
others, like She Hulk or Secret Invasion, and the other ones that I can't remember for some reason.
that's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it almost feels like, oh, I kind of have to watch this for the sake of the next film. It's like I really want to watch the Marvels because I
Mm,
still haven't seen it yet because for some reason the cinema closest to me has like limited the screenings even more, so it's screwed me over a little bit. Anyway,
annoying.
plus I've been busy the last few weeks since it's been out, so I haven't had a chance to stop. And I feel like I'd be missing a trick if I didn't see Miss Marvel first before the
It's
Marvels.
it's a funny one because I think it's worth watching
Mm,
just as it is. It is becoming more and more difficult to keep up with the MCU,
mm,
especially if you're new to it, or even if you're a big fan like myself. I'm a huge
mm.
fan, but I think I watched everything besides the Baby Groot show. So I
I've
had a
not
lot of
seen
time.
that.
Yeah. Um,
Mm,
but I agree with you. I think it is
mm,
becoming very difficult to keep up with Miss Marvel. So Lizzie watched the show just before we watched the Marvels, so she
yeah.
finished it off. And yeah, she's glad she did it. But I wouldn't say you really need to because there's a few references in it, and I suppose you can
Okay.
be as aware of her as possible.
Mm,
And I feel like you yourself, you probably would know enough about her.
yeah.
Um, and
I
like if you
think,
watch a
yeah.
trailer, you sort of see like there's a lot of like power swapping and all that sort of. It's
Yeah.
almost like what's it like a sort of body swap comedy and
Mm,
superhero style, but with three people.
okay. Okay. Now that you've said that, you've sold the Marvels even more to me now.
Good.
Like I
Oh, I
was
loved
already
it.
excited to see it,
Yeah, yeah,
because I like the three characters anyway.
yes.
Um, because Captain Marvel is a weird one because when I saw it in the cinema, I wasn't a massive fan of it, and more
Same.
time that I give it, the better it gets in my head.
Right.
Which very rarely happens with Marvel films. It's either like a cut and paste, like I don't like Thor: The Dark World, but I love
Mm.
this, or stuff like that. Whereas Captain Marvel is like one of the few ones where I'm like, actually, no, I feel like I could watch that again because I feel like I misjudged it the first time, so to speak. Um, so I do want to watch the Marvels, but that's good to know, and you definitely have sold me with that pitch because I wasn't aware of the whole like power swapping thing, but now that you've told me that, I'm like, okay, that's kind of intrigued me a little bit. Yeah, I think the other issue, I mean, kind of going back to the whole TV thing, is like because for a long period of time I was so used to just having to follow the films. And I like with the films, I will happily always watch them day one in the cinema, unless there's reasons around it that I can't get to them.
Mm.
But again, I think the TV shows just add extra homework that, like, outside of shows that I've genuinely loved, like Moon Knight and Loki and Hawkeye,
Yeah.
and to an extent, One Division, because I thought the concept was really good on that. There are, I feel like with the films, they're like a simple one and done thing. Like, yes, they're connected, but you don't need to worry about them afterwards. It's like, okay, I've seen the film, cool, I'm ready for the next one. Whereas with the TV shows, it's like, okay, how many hours do I need to put in to finish this on top of the next
Yeah.
film?
Yeah.
Uh,
So it's an additional 6 hours normally or something like that.
yeah, so it does make it a bit of a chore, but again, I think you and me and some other people that we know, like, we're still on board the train.
Oh yeah.
We're
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
keep going regardless.
I think
But,
it's so much, and it is more time. I feel like
mm,
they do. I mean, I know that because of the writer's strike and because of the
mm,
apparent issues at Marvel that they were talking about this year, that was in that Variety article. There are
yeah,
delays with certain films. They've got to change things, and especially with one of the stars, which we won't go into.
mm,
Um, it's all sort of changing. It's all kind of. I can see a bit of a revamp happening at some point
mm,
soon, and I feel like this sort of time period between the sort of now and 2025 is sort of the ideal time to do it,
mm,
because at the moment they've only got one film out next year, which is quite nice. And I feel like
mm,
I said this to someone, I can't remember who, but it should be like if they want to carry on with films and TV shows, fine, but maybe do
mm.
2 shows and 2 films, and
Yeah,
that's it. That's all you need.
yeah,
Um, it's getting a bit too much. Like 3 films and like multiple TV shows, it's way too much.
yeah. I think they do need to not not step back and like kind of go back to the drawing boards, but I do think they need to kind of pick and choose what comes out when, so it's a bit more
Yeah.
stretched out rather than it just feeling like, oh Christ, I've got 5 different things to catch up on.
Mm,
Plus, like these, like if they do another series of What If or Groot, it's like, oh, I've got that to watch as well. I know it's not relevant, but it will probably be.
yeah.
So it's, I do, I agree with you. I think it's a case of just them monitoring it and going, do we need to put out 7 things in one year? I don't think so.
No, maybe not.
So this is the part of the episode where I want to just dive into like your film taste a little bit more,
Mm.
and kind of get to know what sparked your love for film in the first place. And that is, funny enough, the next question. What, if you can remember at all, what was the first film or one of the first films that sparked your love for cinema?
So I must admit, I can't remember. I tried to think of this, and sort of the first things that came to my mind were like the first film I watched at the cinema.
Mm,
One of the early films was Jurassic Park.
mm,
I was 7 when it came
mm,
out, 7 or 8 when it came out. And that's like still, but it's still a film that I absolutely love. Like
mm,
it's impossible not to love it. But in terms of like specific films or a film that sparked my love of cinema, there wasn't one. It was a funny one because I just remember at some point, maybe during university or just before or just after,
yeah.
going to HMV and going more towards the DVDs and
Mm,
Blu-rays than CDs because I was
mm,
a big music fan when I was younger,
yeah.
and that's changed a lot in the sort of in the years since. And
Mm,
yeah, I'd buy more DVDs. I once had like more than 600, and I've
mm.
still got loads of steelbooks which I'm trying to sell. I will send a link anyway.
Link
But
in the
I just
description.
yeah. And it was just one of those strange transitions that I couldn't
Mm,
explain. Like it was just, I think I understood film more, and I think that
mm,
uh, any sort of hidden meaning in a song or an album compared to um, a film, I
mm,
understood more.
yeah.
Whereas like music, I find quite dense to understand when it comes to certain lyrics. Like it's like I
Mm,
can enjoy a lyric, but I kind of want to know what it means, and I wouldn't know what it means. Whereas a film,
yeah.
I can enjoy a film and I know what the meaning is, and I know what they're
Mm,
aiming for. So it might be something like that.
yeah. I totally agree with you. I love music just as much as I love film, but I
Mm,
have to approach them in slightly different ways in terms of
yeah.
how I enjoy them. Because like with the majority of music, it's like I'm appreciating. I don't know who the best artist is to explain this with, but like I listen to it, I appreciate the production and the instrumentals and the work and the lyrics and the vocals, and there's all these elements that are all literally happening at once in the songs, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm appreciate like one of my favorite bands, not the happiest of choices, but it's Radiohead. um, and like even when I say to my parents, just like, "Oh, my favorite band's Radiohead," they'll immediately go for like, "Oh, they're the depressing band, aren't they?" And I'm like,
They're
yeah, yeah,
not.
but every
They're
single
really
time."
good.
You see, for me, it's hard for me to explain without sounding like a pretentious arse that, like, oh, I love the complexity of the songwriting and the time signatures and stuff, and then I know if I just start talking about that, I've just lost the room. So I'm just like, I'll just go with, yeah, I listened to the depressing one. Yep, that's the one I listened to. But I do agree. Like with music, again, obviously different genres you approach with different things. But
Yeah.
I have a different mentality with like if I'm just listening to music, I'm appreciating it more and kind of delving the layers down while I'm listening to it. Whereas with a film, kind of like what we said earlier, you're kind of in that moment. If it's working, you're feeling what it's wanting you to feel, and I do agree with you. And sometimes they work hand in hand if the soundtrack is fucking brilliant.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, they
Yeah.
really can work together. That is a good point, actually. I love because we're talking about soundtracks recently, and like
Mm.
the Pulp Fiction soundtrack is brilliant. Like
Oh
all
yeah.
like the Guardians soundtracks are great.
Mm.
Oh, what did I download recently? It was, I think it was, oh, I can't remember, Train Spotting. But yeah,
That is a cracking
really like that
soundtrack.
was a phenomenal soundtrack. Even
Mm.
like the second one is really really good.
Mm.
Yeah, it's that's a good point. Yeah, like them going hand in hand. I fully agree. Like when you get the
Yeah.
right song for the right moment, because there are times when you watch like a film or a TV show and they drop a song and it's like that is not the right song for this moment at all. It's terrible. You just wanted to shoehorn in a song you like, didn't you? Didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you did.
Funnily enough, you've just reminded me. This wasn't even in my head, but it's just come back now that you've mentioned this. Again, I love like David Tennant era Doctor Who, but there's a bit in like when the two-parter where the Master shows up and Scissor Sisters starts playing, and it's not like it's literally just for the purpose of the Master like jumping around having fun because he's won, and it's like you just like this is like 2007, I think. So it's like, yeah, you
Right,
just picked Scissor Sisters because it's Scissor Sisters.
because it's yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then in like season one where they played Britney Spears, Toxic because it's 2005. So
Wow. Yeah, that doesn't. Neither of those songs feel right for Doctor Who, and I'm not even a Doctor Who fan.
no, like it's funny that as soon as you said that, old like New Who is the first thing I thought of. I'm like, yeah, those song choices were dreadful. And then I think of something like Florence and the Machine being used in Guardians 3, and I'm like, that's
Oh,
perfect.
so good. Yeah.
Yeah, like that
Mm,
choice works. Scissor
yeah.
Sisters, good song, not the right
No,
moment.
no.
No, no, no.
There was a
Uh,
bit when they used "Teardrop" by Massive Attack in
mm,
Prison Break, and it was just it just didn't. Well, it was like it was. I think it was like the night of or the night before they're about
mm,
to break out,
yeah,
and you can see that they're all sort of getting ready, and they're all sort of there is the stupid looks that they give each other,
yeah, just like,
very
you ready?
knowing,
Yeah, I'm
like
ready.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're ready, yeah, without saying it. And with this song, it just doesn't feel like. Would you break out of prison whilst you're listening to that? Would you? No, you wouldn't.
No, I mean, as soon as you said that, I'm like, there is that I'm even thinking of a better Massive Attack song that would have worked other
Yeah,
than that one. Like Angel, which is off that same album,
yeah,
would have been perfect. I know
yeah.
Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels kind of, or is it Snatch that used that song?
It
Either
was
way,
Snatch. I actually just watched
yeah.
Snatch a bit of that yesterday, and
Mm,
that is a great use of a song in a film, and
mm,
that those moments where their arcade's being smashed up and
yeah,
the burning of the caravan. Yeah,
yeah. Like
really good.
that song would have worked really good for them getting ready to break out of prison, and not the one where I immediately think of the music video with the baby.
Oh yeah, I forgot that.
Yeah, because like I've never seen Prison Break, but my first image in my head is like not these tough burly guys about to break out of prison. I just have the baby
It's a baby.
singing the song. Oh god! And now I want to see someone edit like both of them together and mash it up, just like in the
Oh,
weirdest
that'd
like
be
crossover. Oh, oh, but yeah, I've yet to see a song used in a film where because I've like you said, I've seen songs used and it's just like this doesn't work, but I've yet to see a
Mm,
one where it completely derails a moment. Like
yeah.
it's just tonal whiplash if a song's used.
Mm,
There probably is an example, but I just can't think of one off the top of my head. But
no, I can't. I think if you're what's really good about films, say by Tarantino, Edgar
mm,
Wright, Danny Boyle, people like that,
mm,
they're all film fans, but they're all music lovers as well. So they sort of
mm,
they know what to use and when. And James Gunn is a good example as well, actually.
yeah,
Um, like a lot of filmmakers will have an appreciation for both mediums, and
mm,
it's really really nice to see like their. It's
mm,
I suppose it's kind of them putting their taste up on the screen when it
mm,
comes to music, and it's good to first of all it's good to
mm,
see that they've got good taste.
oh
Second of
yeah,
all, it's good that they know how to use the music and know how
mm,
to time it, and like needle drops are like one of the best things.
mm.
And in the Marvels, there is one of the funniest and one of the best needle drops I've seen in the MCU. It's fucking brilliant, and I will not say what it is.
Okay, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued now because Marvel are surprisingly like they don't do it all the time, but they are very
No,
outside of Guardians.
yeah,
They are actually very good at needle drops.
yeah.
Um,
They it's more score than songs with them, and there was
mm.
a bit in Civil War where they introduced Spider-Man, like, oh, where's your
Oh, and they
guy? And
use
it's
Alt J, yeah.
Queens. Yeah, and it's an Alt J song, which is an absolute
Mm,
tune, and it's perfect for that moment of like
mm.
sort of establishing Spider-Man and the neighborhood that he's in as well. It just feels sort of right for
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and they use a band from London.
Yeah, minus that.
Oh God. To be honest, you know what? You've put an idea in my head of just starting a new podcast entirely talking about needle drops in films. That's an
Oh,
untapped market. That's an untapped
that's good.
market. Yeah.
I might
Coming
steal
for the love of film and music.
that. Yeah.
Working title.
Oh,
Um,
see, I could call it the Neil dual drop. No, we won't
mm.
do that. No, that was already bad. That was terrible. The Neil dual drop.
The
No.
needle. It's a work in progress.
Let's yeah, I'll
Yeah,
figure it out.
we'll pattern it at some point. So the complete other end of the spectrum in terms
Mm.
of the first film that sparked your love for cinema. What is one of the worst films you've ever seen, if you can recall any that come to mind?
Oh, I've got loads.
Now I'm interested.
So
Are any of these going to piss me off unintentionally?
so I went the only ever time I nearly walked out of a cinema.
Mm,
I've never done this because I pay to watch film. Is
yeah.
Bridget Jones' Diary 2 because it's
Oh, The Edge of Reason.
right. Yeah, that was it. I can't remember the
Yeah.
bloody title of it. It's so bad. Like I just like it was so pointless. Like it just kind
Mm,
of went from she went from one to the other and back. It's like, well,
mm,
just it was just pointless. It was a pointless film, not funny, badly written, pissed
mm.
me off.
Okay.
Um, another one I watched in cinema was Mank. I hated that film with a passion.
I'm kind of glad I didn't see that in the cinema. I have the same feeling towards Mank as I do The Irishman. I appreciate them, but I'm probably never going to watch them again. Like they're very well made.
Yeah,
That's it. That's where.
I couldn't get past the
Mm,
pretentious dialogue of
mm,
Mank. And admittedly, I
mm,
feel like the same with Maestro as well. But again,
mm.
I'm one of the few people who doesn't like Maestro, but I don't care.
That's another film that's getting better the more I think about it because
No, it's getting
we were
worse.
sat next to each other at the film festival screening for that, weren't we?
No way.
And I think so, and I think
Oh
we
yeah, we're
came
on the
out.
same row.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
came out and I was like, "What did you think?" And I was like, "That was fucking awful." And I was like, "Oh," and I was just like, "Oh, I liked it." Oh, I was
The
just
thing
like,
is,
"Oh, right."
I think me and Reese hated it. and he was just saying it's awards fodder, and
Mm,
no, I think he didn't like it just as much as me.
mm,
And everyone else in our group, including yourself, everyone else liked it in some sort of
mm,
way. Like I just, yeah. But when
yeah.
there is dialogue like that, I can't get past it. I find it really difficult. I find it so grating because it's
Mm,
like you're just. First of all, if people did talk like that, it would be really annoying. Second of all,
mm,
um, they probably don't, and it's probably just like a way to sort of show off, and it's
mm,
just, oh god, I'm just thinking
mm.
about it now. I'm getting annoyed. Anyway, yeah,
I'm glad you said that as well. Like you attempted to walk out, but you didn't. I've never walked out of a film, but there's only
yeah.
one film that I was this close to walking out of, and I think it was The Girl on the Train with Emily Blunt in it.
Oh yeah,
Because I was watching it and I'm like, this is just a rip off of Gone Girl, and I would rather be watching Gone Girl.
yeah.
And it
And
was
I
just
don't.
so
They
boring.
change it from London to New York, and like
Mm,
it just seemed completely unnecessary. And there
mm,
was a bit like the bit where they see like see what happened. It's like
mm.
this train is miles away from that house or whatever it is.
Yeah,
And it's just, and you're half drunk as well. You're not going to remember or see it properly. Like it's
yeah.
such bullshit. Yeah,
Yeah, that would have made so much more sense in London of all places, where there's trains and properties within very close
yeah,
proximity of each other. And there have been times where I've gone up to London and I'm like, I can see into that person's living room. And I
yes,
really,
yeah.
yeah, I shouldn't be, but I'm just looking at what they're watching on TV. Okay, why are you watching Love Island? Just don't stop.
It's a nice sofa.
Yeah, lovely. Just feel like winding down the window, going, I love the way you've arranged it. The feng shui is great.
But the fact that you're watching Love Island sucks.
Yeah, poor choice in TV show, but furniture's lovely.
Well done.
Oh god, but yeah, I also with those picks that you mentioned, other than Bridget Jones, I find it funny how they're all Netflix awards films.
Yeah, yeah, they
Yeah,
are. Yeah.
which
I don't know
might be
if
saying something about the films that Netflix are making, but I don't know.
well, I think it is because there was those two, and there was another one which was it was black and white, and it was like a
Oh,
um
is it the one with Tessa Thompson in it?
no, 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 it's not that. It was a foreign language film, and it was I think not about not made. It was like a
Oh, Roma. The
Roma.
Alfonso
God,
Cuarón film. Now, that is one I actually don't mind. That's grown on me, but I think when I watched it, I'm like, some of this is rather pretentious. But I
yeah, I
also
thought
appreciate the filmmaking, so I'm like
I
indifferent.
I feel like there's a good sort of long list out there of films
mm,
that are widely praised critically,
mm,
but that I just hate or find annoying.
yeah. There's I think this is something I've appreciated more as I get older and I do this more, is like I can it's a very fine line. Like in my brain I can tell if a film's being too pretentious or if it's just hitting my filmmaking nerve just right in terms of like I'm more impressed than anything. And I think that is why I prefer Maestro over Mank, because Mank just did feel pretentious in a
Yeah,
lot of ways. And don't
did.
that pains me to say because Fincher's my favorite filmmaker, so it
He's great. Yeah.
really hurts. But with Maestro, like there were times where I did think it was veering to pretentious, but then there were other bits like the dance sequence that comes out of nowhere, or other bits where I'm like, nah, I'm just more impressed. I can't be mad at this. I'm just more fascinated about like how the fuck did they film that, and I'm just like, nah, I can't be mad. My filmmaking brain is just on
That's fair.
full gauge at the moment.
Yeah.
I This is the other thing that I can completely understand why people don't like Maestro. That's the other
Mhm.
extreme. Like I like it a lot, but I can understand where you and Reese come from in terms of like, yeah, this isn't floating my boat. So I
Yeah.
completely understand it.
Mm. That's fair. Yeah. I think I just have to include that in my films of I don't like, but most people do. But it's
Mm.
fine.
Well, on that topic, funnily enough, are there any films out there that you like that most people don't? And I know exactly one of those films that you're going to say because it's just I just know it's coming.
Right. So there's two that came to mind when
Mm.
I saw this question. Incredible Hulk, because it's always at the bottom of people's like MCU ranking. It's
Oh,
not bottom.
The Edward Norton one.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like
it's a
it.
great one. Yeah.
People don't like it. It's just ridiculous. They put it up there with like Iron Man 2 and Thor the Dark World.
Mm.
It's nowhere near as bad as either of those
I
two.
right. I will be brutally honest because there's so much in the MCU.
Yeah.
For me, it is in like the bottom quarter, but that's purely
Mm,
because there's so much other great stuff that's kind of
that's
pushed
fair.
it further down.
Yeah.
If we were talking like early MCU, it would be like near the middle or the top because
Same.
I have a soft spot for the early MCU stuff like Iron Man,
Mm.
Incredible Hulk, and I just love how like it's brutal when it doesn't need to be for some reason.
It
Like it's
really
kind
is like that.
yeah.
That sort of final fight between the two, between
Mm,
Abomination and Hulk, is it's rare. It's really brutal. It's like
mm,
it's bloody, it's violent, it's vicious.
mm. Even the
There's
bit in the bottle factory at the start feels like it's ripped straight
yeah,
out of a Bourne film, and I'm
that is
like,
cool. I
okay,
love that
I'm on
bit.
board with that.
Yeah, and
Mm,
there's no sort of like they do like a good reveal of him rather than like showing him
yeah,
straight away.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really good. Yeah,
Mm.
and the other one is Morbius, which everyone can shut up
Okay,
about.
everyone, thanks for watching. It's been great. I mean, I was kind of prepared that you were going to say Morbius, and that's half the reason I put this question in, and I should have done it for Charlie as well because I know you two are like two of the sole defenders of that film. And rewatched it, I only watched it for the first time the other week. Having watched it for the first time just like a week or so ago,
Yeah,
I can kind of see where you're coming from. Like, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it
yeah.
either. I'm like right, perfectly slap bang in the middle. So yeah, defend it as much as you want.
I will. It's an enjoyable film,
mm,
and I said this. I think I said this to you before we started. That it feels like
mm,
a very like ripped from the '90s
mm,
superhero, supervillain, whatever film,
mm,
and I don't mind that. Like, it still looks good. It's still fun. It's still enjoyable.
mm,
I have a feeling people are going to say something about the fact that I said it looks good, but you know, there may be some VFX are a bit shonky here and there, but
mm,
it's fun. I enjoy it. I don't hate it as much as everyone else.
mm.
I think everyone else is just sort of it's like an easy film to pile on because of
Yeah.
how good superhero films can be and how different they are now compared
Mm,
to um this list, as I said, this looks like it's from the '90s,
mm,
but I don't mind it. I think it's a good film. I think it's enjoyable.
mm,
I think I remember laughing. You know, you get to
mm.
see Matt Smith dancing in it, which is always fun.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. I can see why people love it. I can also see why people bash the ever living Christ out of it. But I'm perfectly central. I'm neutral on it. So
Mm,
yeah, I knew you were going to say Morbius. So that's part of the reason why I asked it.
I couldn't help it.
So the second to last question I have is the one that I ask everyone on this series, and is the most fun question that I have. And that is, if you were stranded on a desert island and you could only have 5 films with you, what are you choosing and why?
Okay, so
Don't say
first one I'm
Morbius.
going for is more no. Venom? No, not really.
Oh god, it just gets
Let's face it
progressively more
was.
downhill, and I'm just like, oh, why?
The first one is Avengers, the first
Mm,
one.
yeah.
Um, I think it's one of those films that worked a lot better than people thought it would.
Mm,
It's a good piece of ensemble filmmaking.
yep.
You know, I spoke about ensemble filmmaking recently with someone, and I said that it's essentially you need to get the balance right between all the characters. Everyone has to have
Mm,
something to do, but not everyone has to be central to the
mm,
story. And like, really, this is, I suppose, more Iron Man and Thor's story, I would say, more so than anyone else.
yeah.
And then everyone else is relatively not sidelined, but
Mm,
they're still there. They're still heroic. They're still very good. So yeah, I love it. I always enjoy it, and I may probably watch
mm,
it later on today.
mm.
Now that I've talked about it. Um, the next one is Heat, which
Nice.
is the Michael Mann. film from I think '95. I
Yeah,
forget when.
95.
'90s, yeah. And it is whenever anyone asks my favorite film, that is my favorite film, all time favorite
Mm,
film, because it's perfect. Like that is a film that earns its running time.
mm,
The weird thing is, even though the subject matter is dark and it's heavy, you got essentially it's a cops and robbers film,
yeah.
but there's a lot of like murder, betrayal, death, and all sorts of.
Mm,
I think of it as quite a light watch. Like if it's on, I'll just
mm,
put it on and I'll leave it on because I know it so well.
yeah.
Like it's it can be really violent at times, but it's
Mm.
still like, oh, I can relax to this. It's fine. I know exactly
Mm.
what's going to happen. And that coffee shop scene,
Oh yeah.
the best, the
I
best.
know there's a quote that Josh, someone we know in the
Mm.
British film community, there's a quote from the film he always brings up, and that is the one thing I think of whenever I think of Heat. As much as I love the film, and it's the bit where Al Pacino just goes, "She's got a great
Great
ass,
ass.
and you got your head all the way up it."
We up at.
Like that is, I knew that was coming when I watched the film, and ever since then, it's just on a 24-hour loop in my head, just a gift.
There's like a either a Disney or Pixar like animated version of that scene.
Oh my god, I
I need
might
to.
need to watch
If
this.
I can find it, I'll send it to you. Did you see Dungeons and Dragons with Chris Pine?
Yeah.
So do you remember when his face goes a bit weird?
Mm,
It
mm.
looks a bit like that.
It does a bit. Now
It
I've
is
just got an
bizarre.
image of him warped saying that coming out of his mouth when he's malfunctioning.
Yeah.
Ash, 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 ash.
It's so good.
Oh dear.
Right, next one is The Dark Knight.
Yep.
Um, it is almost a perfect film. I don't think it's
Okay.
perfect, but I still I love watching it all the way
Mm,
throughout. I think the bit on the boat is there's something about it for me that doesn't quite work, but
mm,
on the whole, I love this film. I think it's again a very rewatchable film,
yep.
and it's just something I enjoy every time I see it.
Mm,
My friend and I went for I think it was the 10th anniversary, whenever it was,
mm,
at the BFI IMAX. I think it was 2018. That would have been the
yeah.
10th anniversary,
Mm,
and that was just so fun. Watching a film like that in the IMAX is just so
mm.
much fun, especially some of the scenes, like the one where he jumps off the building,
Oh yeah.
is shot in IMAX. Is
Mm,
just perfect, and it just shows how good a superhero film can be
mm,
without sort of typical superhero stuff in it. Like there's no one who, like,
mm.
admittedly, Batman is overpowered because of his gadgets and all that and his
Yeah.
money, but no one's got like superpowers or anything like that. Like
No.
Nolan always wanted to make it in a fairly grounded, realistic world as much as you can with superhero
Mm.
stuff. So
I
yeah,
do find it
that's
interesting that you've got that and Heat in your top five,
mm,
and The Dark Knight was heavily influenced by the latter. So I
was.
just find that quite fascinating that you've got both of those two in your five.
Oh yeah, yeah, like two of
Mm.
my favorite. I think I'm just kind of a fan of those sorts of films where
Mm.
like you've got a good amount of action, but you've got a really good amount of talking as well, and
Oh
like that
yeah.
sort of character work is so key to why these films work.
Mm.
Like you can't just have full blown action.
Mm.
Well, actually, let me correct myself there. You can have full blown action if that's the
Mm.
film you want to go for, but these sorts of films, I don't think you
Yeah. No, that's
can.
I completely get by that.
My fourth choice is
Mm.
Chef. Um,
Great. I love that.
and
Mm.
it if you wrote down
Mm.
the idea or the synopsis or whatever
Mm.
of this film, it doesn't work. Like
No.
on paper, this film does not work,
No.
but it really, really does because it's
Mm.
really funny. It's the food. My God, the food, the food, the food, the food.
Yeah.
I like my fiance
Mm.
Lizzie, who I've mentioned a couple of times,
Mm.
and I think our relationship is half based on food. So like
Mm.
we're both massive food fans, and this
Mm.
film is just a perfect watch for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, there are a few films that get the food right. Like this is a really good film for it,
Mm.
whereas The Bear is a really good TV show for it. Food,
Yeah.
like just shots of food, and just you can almost smell and taste it, and it's still funny as well. Like it's
I,
so well made.
I keep wanting
I
to
love it.
rewatch. I keep wanting to rewatch Chef because I've really
Mm,
liked it. But I know the problem is, as soon as I watch it again, I'm going to be hungry. the
Yeah, yeah.
entire time.
You need to watch it either whilst you're eating or just before.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's the best way to do it because I know when I first watched it, I'm like, I just want to make that. I think as soon as I watched that, I then watched like that spin-off series they did on Netflix where
That's
like,
so good.
yeah, and I was just like, I can't watch this. I'm just hungry all the time now.
That
Oh
episode where they have like, I think it's got the Russos,
oh, yeah, and
Tom
Kevin Feige,
Holland,
yeah,
Kevin
yeah,
Feige's
yeah, yeah.
there, Robert Downey Jr., like just basically
Mm,
the Avengers episode.
mm.
Oh my God. It was just like food and Marvel. Like,
Yeah.
what more could I want? And they were all talking about like their no,
Mm.
their experience with Marvel. And like Tom Holland spoke about his audition, and I fucking hell, like my God, mate.
That
I'm
is
more of
the
that thing.
perfect episode of
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. If anything ever, like if anyone else when
Mm,
TV peaked,
mm.
then
Yeah. Just like favorite moments in TV history. Well, there's the end of Game of Thrones. Oh, and then there's that episode of Chef.
yeah, Chef,
Yeah,
where they talk about food and they eat food and they talk about Marvel. That's it.
yeah. Uh,
Oh, it's so good. And my last choice is Paddington 2 because
yes,
it's just
yes.
like the warmest hug of a film. I love it.
Mm,
It's one of the few films that
mm,
surpasses the original.
yeah.
It's definitely better than the first one. Like, the first one's really good, but
Mm,
what makes this film is Hugh Grant. Like he's
mm,
so good. Like he's
mm,
so brilliant as an evil actor, and he
mm.
just hams it up. And there's a great shot where they're sort of going to his house. And they've got all those photos of him
Yeah,
as a younger
yeah.
actor, which are real photos of Hugh Grant, which
Mm,
I love. It's
mm,
just like he's such an egomaniac, and
mm,
he plays it incredibly well. He's at this point in
mm.
his career where he's very much enjoying it rather than taking it seriously, which
Yeah.
I'm loving about a lot of actors at the moment.
I do like early Hugh Grant, like with Four Weddings and a
Oh yeah,
Funeral and stuff, but this, I guess you can call it a renaissance of Hugh Grant with stuff like Dungeons and Dragons, the Paddington 2, and I guess
yeah, don't yeah.
Wonka when that comes out.
I can't wait
Um,
to see that.
yeah, I'm actually really excited for it. Partially down to how excited you are for it, because I don't think I was that interested with it. And then like that became the conversation of the group
Yeah.
chat we have on Twitter, and I was like, okay, you've sold me. I wasn't intrigued, but that is also the director of Paddington, which also had me
It is.
intrigued as well. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna see it regardless. And it's Timothy Chalamet, so you
I mean,
know.
who doesn't want to watch him?
No, exactly. Yeah,
Exactly.
brilliant. Also, I just want to backtrack to your first pick, Avengers.
Mm,
Is that there is something about the first Avengers that again it's not just one of my favorite MCU films, but it has been one of my favorite comic book films since I saw it in
mm,
2012 because I think at the time I don't even remember how old I was at the time, but I just remember like I don't think I had seen a superhero film on this scale with all these characters coming together before, and
yeah.
I remember 10, 12-year-old me just being blown
Mm,
away in the cinema because I think I saw it in 3D as well, and it's one of the few films at the time that just nailed that, other than Avatar. And I was just like, this is the best thing I've ever seen because, like you said, it nails the character dynamics. It feels like you're seeing all these. This is a cliche thing to say, but it feels like a chessboard, and all these pieces are coming together. um, there is also a video I watched about a year ago by I think his name's Patrick Willems, where
mm,
he praises the first Avengers film because Joss Whedon, say what you will about him now, but as a director, he approached the first Avengers film with every shot as if it was a panel from a comic book. And when you know that knowledge, like watching the film, I think I rewatched a clip from it the other day and I'm like, yeah, every single shot feels like
mm,
you're watching a panel. And especially like the bit where it rotates around them as a group towards the end, that feels like
yeah.
it would be a double page spread in a comic book that like with a
Yeah.
massive bit of artwork. Um, oh, I love the original Avengers. I just love it so much.
It is very good. I've never heard that before. But
Mm,
what's interesting is I remember that again. Say we want about Joss Whedon, but
mm,
apparently he was quite restricted in what he could do with his next one, Age of Ultron, which is
mm.
absolutely ridiculous considering how good this film was.
Yeah.
Like you see, like how I mean, this essentially kicked off what the MCU is now and how
Oh yeah.
successful it is. I think this was the film that
Mm.
they were aiming for, and it just became such a huge hit. And I don't know if they're expecting it or they weren't. But
Mm.
either way, as big as it was, he was still told you have to do this, this, this. He's got restrictions. He's got guidelines for
Yeah.
Age of Ultron. It's just like ridiculous. Like of all the
Yeah.
directors to have that,
Mm.
but
Age
and I
of
know he's kind
Ultron.
of like not in the
Yeah.
best light now, but you know,
Yeah. I think Justice League didn't help with that, but
no,
I still like the stuff he did for. Well, if it wasn't like you said, if it wasn't for the stuff he did for the MCU, probably wouldn't be the way it is now.
mm,
Even to an extent, like yeah, mostly with the first Avengers, but even some of the stuff he did with Age of Ultron, which I think is
yeah,
also like gets too much hate for some
mm,
reason. Because that's a weird one where, like, when I saw it for the first time, I adored it, and then I kind of my opinion went down on it, and now I appreciate it again. That's a weird one for me because, like, I kind of have come full circle now
yeah.
on Age
My
of Ultron.
opinion has definitely gone up since
Mm,
first seeing it, and I
mm,
think what's interesting about Age of Ultron is it gives Hawkeye something to do, which
mm.
is great, which is good to see because I feel like Jeremy Renner can be really wasted
Oh
in
yeah.
his in this
Mm,
role. I mean, you see a lot more of him in his own TV show,
mm,
which is really, really good to see, and he's fantastic in this role.
mm.
But also a lot of the stuff from Age of Ultron shows up in Endgame. So
Yeah.
like the lifting of the hammer,
Mm,
um, there's the Avengers Assemble. There's all these
mm,
little hints towards those
mm.
in Age of Ultron, which obviously Joss Whedon wanted to do but didn't quite do.
Yeah.
You know, it was all saved for the Avengers
Mm,
film of all films, I suppose.
mm,
Yeah, it's just interesting to see how that sort of played out from one film to another.
mm. Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. I feel like a lot more in the MCU films could do with more Hawkeye, just in general.
Agreed. Yeah. See
Yeah.
what's going to happen there.
Yeah. I mean, even from the first, I mean, I've always had a soft spot for Hawkeye, but that first Avengers
Mm,
film, even the two, like, not as important characters with Black Widow and Hawkeye, it's like, yeah, we're not going to not do something with them. We're still going to make them as interesting as the main ones. They're not going to be
yeah,
just
yeah,
side pieces. And
yeah.
I like what it did with them, and it, I, we could spend all day talking about the Avengers. But one last thing I want to say is just like I really love how that first Avengers film establishes the friendship between Natasha and Clint.
It does really
Like it
well.
does
Yeah,
it so like I know the Budapest thing is like this. In hindsight, it's a cheesy callback thing that we never
yeah.
understand what it is, but I've always loved it for some reason.
Mm.
Yeah, that is a solid top five. Although on a desert island, chef might be the worst choice because you're just going to be I'm really
Admittedly,
hungry. You look
yeah.
around and you're like, oh, hang on a minute, I've got nothing to eat.
I have coconuts, and that's it.
I'm just going to try and devour this whole palm tree. Hang on a second.
Nom. I did think that when I I put it down, I was like, "This is a stupid idea," but I love it too much. So you
Because on the last couple of episodes, I've had someone suggest Castaway as a joke.
know.
And on the last episode with Sawyer, he said Titanic, and I'm like, hang on a minute, you've just landed. That's probably the worst pick because that's about a ship
Wow.
sinking, and you've probably just survived that. And now you've picked Chef, which I didn't even consider. Those are like the three worst choices.
It's a good choice, but it's a terrible choice.
Oh yeah, it's a brilliant film, but your stomach's gonna hate you for it.
Yeah. But then when I'm rescued, I'll appreciate it. So,
Oh yeah, yeah.
whatever food I'm given, even if it's shit.
You're just gonna
Get
get
some
on the
gruel. Oh,
helicopter.
great.
Yeah, you're just
Yeah.
gonna get on the helicopter and it's like, have you got food? I need food. I've watched Chef like 500 times. I need something. Even if it's a bloody bit of gum, I will swallow that.
Yeah. Give it to me now.
Oh dear. So to round things off, one last question that I just used to round everything off is that are there any upcoming films in the next month or so that you're looking forward to? I think we've already addressed the main one, but are there any outside of Wonka, or you can go further into Wonka if you want, that you're looking forward to for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I am really looking forward to Wonka. Admittedly, I
Mm.
kept mentioning it in our, our film Twitter
Yeah.
chat. Partly because I just kept thought I think it was funny, but also
Mm.
I am looking forward to it. But also, it was annoying certain people. So I essentially did that. You know exactly the people I mean.
Yep. Yeah.
And I just, I get a kick out of it because I'll message Charlie say I'm going to say this, and she just replies, "You're such a fucking wind up merchant." It's like, yeah, yep, I am, and I'm
Uh,
proud. Um,
and it's all because of Wonka.
Damn Wonka. What am I looking forward to besides that? I'm trying to think now.
There
What else
really
is coming
isn't
out?
much coming out in December, is
Not a
there?
lot. Well, I'm seeing Napoleon today,
Okay.
so I'm looking forward to that. I do want to see Thanksgiving. I've not seen that
Mm.
yet. I'm trying to think what is out in December. I don't know actually. I think yeah, mainly
Mm.
Wonka, but I think December is a bit of a slow month. And even if there are films out, admittedly,
Yeah.
just December's always busy. It's one of those films, but it's one of those times with films when it's just like,
Mm.
yeah, I haven't got that much time for it. Chicken Run 2 is coming out.
Oh yeah, I'm
That's
excited for
good.
that because I missed
Yeah.
it at the London Film Festival and I was
Mm.
so gutted
Oh
because
no, man.
I wanted that was one of the few films on the lineup I was like I really want to see that, and it was on the day I wasn't there, and now I'm like I've got to wait till December now.
There's a few films, but nothing
Mm.
massively exciting. Like Next Goal Wins is out, and
Yeah,
yeah, there are potentially issues with that. And Ferrari, people say isn't great, and
it's
then yeah,
it's I didn't think it would be like the literal worst film I've seen this year,
wow,
but it is at the bottom of my list, and it's not moved.
wow.
Yeah, I that's the first time I did the surprise film at London Film Festival, and now it's put me
Mm.
off of wanting to do them again. Because I'm like, well, that was very late in the evening. I don't want to sit through another 2 hour slump next year, so I might just ditch. I just ditch it next year. I was really hoping it would be Next Goal Wins because I was like, okay, that's an hour and a half. It's not that long, but it's already quite late into the evening. That'll be perfect. Or do they put
Yes.
on a 2 hour film about
Oh.
Adam Driver doing the worst Italian accent, and then I was this close to falling asleep. Out of all the films at the festival, I was this close to falling asleep during Ferrari.
It's the thing is, it's what two? It's this what 2.5 hours or something
It's
ridiculous like that.
very long.
When and they showed it. Oh, I'm looking it up now. Yeah, 2 hours 10.
Yeah, and the
And what it
screening was
starts
like
at
eight
what
forty
eight?
five.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, it's not that on a Sunday.
Yeah, it was the worst because like I'd always
Terrible.
gone. I went to the surprise film with like the previous year notion of like, oh, it will start
Yeah,
around like 7 or 6, and it will be a decent finish time, and
yeah.
it didn't finish until like half 11. And I'm like, I've got to get up early the next day to watch Maestro, and I don't think my brain can take 2.5 hours of like Adam Driver attempting an accent. Actually, I will give him. I'll let him off a bit. Shailene Woodley has the worst accent in the film.
All right.
She bounces between American and Italian, and then this weird third accent that I don't know what it is. Like there is one scene where on the cut her accent changes. So like it will cut to Adam Driver, it'll cut to her, she'll have an American accent, cuts back to Adam Driver, it cuts back to her, she's Italian all of a sudden, and I'm like,
Fucking
this
hell.
is this is not good. So with that being said, uh, that's been another episode of For the Love of Film. It's been great having you on, Neil. This is now your point to let everyone know where they can find you and on all the different socials on the World Wide Web.
So all of my handles are Neil's Real Deal, which is N. They're all double E, so it's
Mm,
NWLRWLDWL.
mm.
Because I'm a ridiculous man. Yeah, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and that's where you can find me. I'll usually be tweeting or blogging about some sort of film or moaning about something,
Mm.
or just giving Aaron some abuse.
Yeah, and on that note, the guy. And on that note, It was great having you on. Whether you'll be on again is another question.
We'll see. I doubt it.
It was great while it lasted.
Thanks, man. That was
Oh,
good.
jokes, all jokes. It's all positive. It's never mean spirited. Well, at least from my point of view, it's never mean spirited.
Who knows?
So that has been another episode of For the Love of Film. If you enjoyed it, then subscribe to the channel and like the video if you haven't done so already. All of Neel's socials will be in the description below, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.